Good morning, everybody. My name is Sky Nicholson, and today our opening words are by Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson. And as you can see, Nick and I have swapped on your order of service. So I am not Reverend Nick Cable. Yeah, that's right. Welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger, and the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard. Welcome to them as well. For we are people of faith, faith in our expansive welcome, faith in our ability to grow, faith in the precious gift of our truths, faith in the promise of trying, learning, changing, faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. Welcome to who you are: gay, straight, bi, pan, lesbian, queer, questioning, unable to be contained in any word. Welcome to you who are trans, cis, genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, agender, beyond words. Welcome to you who are human. Welcome to you who love and are loved. Welcome to you who are blessed, which is all of you. May this time together be a blessing.
Come on forward, have a seat. I'm Adrienne. Nice to see you all. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm wondering if I have a volunteer to open our Wonder Box, which seems really far away. Come on. What's inside? What's in there? Some scarves. Does anybody remember when I did a story with these before? A few people here? This is actually the first story. That was the second story. So this is the first story. So you might notice some themes. And this is written and illustrated by the lovely Scott Stewart. And there's actually, I just found out there's an animation of it. So I'm going to do my best, but I will share that later on our Facebook page and in our Friday newsletter in case you want to see the animation of it. And it goes a little like this. My dad has a shadow that's as blue as can be. And there's nothing but blue in my whole family tree. But mine is quite different. It's not what you think. For mine is not blue. My shadow is, what do you think? Pink. My shadow loves ponies and books and pink toys, princesses and fairies, things not for boys. But there's one thing it likes most, I have found. It loves wearing dresses and dancing around. It spins and it sparkles and it twirls through the air, then stops as my dad walks in with a glare. It will turn blue one of these days. Don't worry, it is just a phase. Dad's shadow is blue. It's big, it's strong. But when I stand with it, I just feel wrong. I wish mine were blue like all of the others. I wish mine were blue like my dad's and my brother's. I'd be part of the group. Of that, there's no doubt. But I cannot fit in when my shadow stands out. Now, some of us might relate to this part especially. Things are all changing, and that is not cool. I'm ready to start my first day of school. You'll need pencils and books and lunch you must bring. Dress up with your shadow in its favorite thing. I wonder if you would dress up in your shadow in its favorite thing. My heart, it skips a beat as I put on a dress and I look at my dad. was anxious and stressed. He takes me to class and I turn to say bye. His face is all worried. There's fear in his eyes. So I step in the doorway and I puff out my chest. One thing is clear, I'm not like the rest. I try to say hi, but my voice is too quiet. The kids turn around. In the room, it goes silent. I run out the door and I push past my dad. I run to my house feeling angry and sad. If my shadow was blue, I'd be there making friends. I'd be laughing and playing and drawing with pens. I rip off my dress and throw it down to the floor. I won't wear it again. Not ever, no more. Just then at my door came a soft little knock. It's my dad walking in, and I look up in shock. Both he and his shadow in dresses they stood with shimmering seams and pink sparkling hoods. His voice speaks in a tone that is quite soft and it's stern. Pick up that dress. Listen and learn. Your shadow is pink. I see now it's true. It's not just a shadow. It's your innermost you. He shows me the photo of parents and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and others. We've all have a shadow that's hidden from eyes. Sometimes our shadow, it lives in disguise. This person's shadow loves painting and fashion and art. Her shadow loves engine and powerful cars. His shadow loves dance and it turns and it twirls. Her shadow, she hides it. Her shadow likes girls. His shadow loves theater and acting and plays. Her shadow loves science and planets and space. Your shadow is you, and pink it will be. So stand up with your shadow and yell this with me. And this is me. I'm going to say that again. Your shadow is you, and pink it will be. So stand up with your shadow and yell, this is me. You want to try it? Ready? This is me. There you go. And some, they will love you, and some, they will not. But those that do love you, they'll love you a lot. So put on that dress and get back to school. If someone won't like you, then they're the fool. My heart nearly burst and my shadow it soared. I picked up the dress and I wore it once more. We ran out the door, this time holding hands. My dad and our shadows, together we stand. I stride in my class and I puff out my chest. I may be different, but different is best. I join a small group. Though in I don't blend, they look up and smile. Will you be our friend? And so I encourage each of you, one of the most radical things we can do in love is love who we are and love others exactly as they are and for who they are. And with that, we will sing our children out to our class.
Hi again. Again, my name is Sky Nicholson. I am one of the Sunday service team here at UUCCI. My pronouns are she, her. And when I first saw the title of Nick's sermon, Who's Afraid of Gender? My very first thought was me. Well, okay, at least I used to be. Not necessarily afraid per se, and not of people. I love people. I love people in all their weirdness and human messiness. And I love seeing people who live full expressions of themselves outside of what societal norms push upon us. But I have found myself at times balking at the concept of gender, or rather ungendering, or at pronouns, singular they, or maybe it's at the idea that what I had always believed to be true could possibly not be a universal truth at all. I had a really good friend who was trans, Chaz, may he rest in peace. But even that fit into my expected binary. Chaz went from a this to a that, born a she, now a he. I consider myself to be quite open minded, accepting, compassionate. So, why is it that the concept of ungendering would spark a fluttering of questions inside of me? What is it about the pronoun they, them, those who are neither here nor there, but rather gliding along the spectrum in the liminal between wholly male or wholly female? I've never held issue with the fluidity or spectrum of sexual orientation. I fully embrace the bothness within attraction and love, or masculine and feminine energy holding space within each of us, yin and yang, trading majority at different points in our lives. But gender, it's like this binary holdout. We have it assigned in our culture before birth: pink and blue, balloons, cakes, onesies. We reveal it in such certainty. It's this grand pronouncement that we, the parents, are having this particular kind of child, a this or a that, not both, not other, and not up for revision. Binary. But when has the binary ever really served us humans for the good? Other than maybe to code computers, but categorizing that as good is up for debate. Us and them, right? One or the other. Me, like me, and not like me. Black, white. Red, blue. Left, right. Native, alien, pro, con, Venus, Mars. These either or distinctions perpetuate our divisiveness, which is now more loudly evident than in any other time of my life. How can someone refuse to participate in this binary of gender, this one thing that's so clearly defined before birth? Well, as a science teacher, I know that that's not totally accurate. Gender may not necessarily be quite so binary. There are all sorts of ways our biology already blurs the line between she and he. As we've been made aware through the recent Olympics, some biological women can have extra testosterone as a result of actually carrying an XY chromosome, although they have all the requisite parts of a woman, and vice versa with biological men. There are hermaphrodites, meaning having both male and female parts in many other species: fish, snails, worms. Hyenas and bees are considered to have a third gender. You know, the worker bee is a sterile female. Butterflies, bearded dragons, beluga whales, to name a few, can all be intersex, meaning that they can have the characteristics or anatomy of both males and females. And many species of fish can change their gender as adults when their environment requires it. So, gender is considered binary only because humans have declared it as such. But that's changing. Here comes the younger generation. Did you guys know that generations born after 2013 are called the Generation Alpha? I just learned that this week. I was really excited. Here comes the younger generations, boldly wiping away the strongest held binary in our whole culture. they are standing up and telling us, maybe we don't have to pick sides. It's brave to stand in the aisle, neither one side or the other, but also both, by refusing to participate in the binary of gender. They are proclaiming an acceptance of self that blows apart the box society has told us we all have to fit inside. And wow, when I look at it that way, I'm almost a little jealous. It gives me hope. Perhaps ungendering is exactly what our divided species needs: authenticity, acceptance. And honestly, how can we fear that?
We have two readings of sorts. One is a short video and the second is a reading. We'll see shortly, we'll hear shortly. This first video is from a creator, a speaker, a writer named Alok. Many of you may be familiar with him, and if you're not, or them, excuse me, then you will be very shortly.
I'm non-binary, which means it's not just that I'm challenging the binary between male, female, man, woman, but between us and them. And in your statement, you said, why don't I help them, as if this struggle is not your struggle too? The reason you don't fight for me is because you're not fighting for yourself fully. And any movement that's trying to emancipate men from the shackles of heteropatriarchy or emancipate women from traditional gender ideology has to have trans and non-binary people at the forefront, because we are actually the most honest. We're tracing the root. Where do these ideas of manhood and womanhood come from? They come from a binary structure. And so that's why people like me, who are visibly gender nonconforming, who are both feminine and masculine and none of the above, we experience the brunt of all of these collective fantasies that were created that are killing other people, that are also killing us. It just looks different. Don't show up for me because you want to protect me or you want to help me. I don't need your help. I have an unshakable and irrevocable sense of who I am because I am divine. I come from people who were exterminated and targeted by colonists because the gender binary was superimposed on Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color by European colonists. And the reason that they targeted us is because they knew our power, right? So the reason that there's so much animus against me is because of my power. I don't need to be legitimized, or I don't have anything to prove. What I want us to rephrase the conversation is, are you ready to heal? And I don't think the majority of people are ready to heal. And that's why they repress us as trans and gender variant people, because they've done this violence to themselves first. They've repressed their own femininity. They've repressed their own gender nonconformity. They've repressed their own ambivalence. They've repressed their own creativity. And so when they see us have the audacity to live a life without compromise, where we say there are no trade-offs, where we say we actually get to carve in the marrow of this earth and create our own goddamn beauty, instead of saying thank you for teaching me another way to live, they try to disappear us because they did that to themselves first. So I guess I would rephrase your question to be, can you help me get free? Not, can you help me help you?
Our second reading is by Kai Flannery, Blessing Our Many Masculinities. We bless today all the masculinities with us and within us. We bless you who shelter us and are queer, you who grow flowers, you who take up welding and are proud to work in a shower of sparks. We bless you whose heart hammers at taking up a power drill, you who know the names of the birds and trees, each life regarded and held gently. We bless you who paper over fear with swagger, your little bird heart beating fast, saying, "Let me be free. Please don't laugh." We bless those of us who don't have words for what we feel, whose strength lies in planning, hoping hard that action will be enough. There's a space for you in the landscape of vulnerability. We bless those of you who are confident, knowing in our bones our own value. We bless those of us who live with disability, who find new ways of loving a body, its essence, its gifts, not just what it can do with ease. May we find a measure of strength again each day for the journey. We bless you who try new things at age 60, 70, 80. May you find joy and not perfection. We bless you who have to figure out how to relax intentionally, for whom retirement is a mystery to be tried one day at a time. And we bless you who never made enough money to retire, those who hesitate to sign anything because the law has always taken away and never given. May your name come to mean power and not suspicion. We bless you who live with a government name or an assigned gender that doesn't fit. May the place where you live come to join you in embracing complexity. We anoint those of us who don't seek health care, who seek self-sufficiency because it is safe and proud. May you learn the rest and risk of being cared for. We bless those who find courage in speaking up for others. May you teach others your gift of saying hard things with kindness. We bless you, you whose hearts are a brilliant magnolia print and those whose hearts are plaid. Those who live your masculinity in a skirt with sequins and boots, who learned how to work a sewing machine in secret. We bless you who wait for others to speak first, those who use your power to lift up voices around you, and those of us who don't recognize our own power and need to be witnessed again and again to know we are seen. We bless you. We bless you. We bless you. We witness you. We bless you who shelter us and are queer, you who grow flowers. Your children are all around you. We bless today all the masculinities with us and within us. In 2 weeks, I will begin a new chapter in my professional and personal development when I start the Doctor of Ministry program at Meadville Lombard Theological School. This 3-year virtual doctoral program with an annual in-person retreat will guide me in developing original research on themes that I bring along with me on this journey. And at a high level, my focus will be on interfaith leadership studies and the theological praxis or practice of fostering pluralistic community in today's world. But today is less about that per se and more to do with the foundation that will be laid in the coming months as I start what will likely be my last degree program. As I anticipate starting as a 20th grader, I will be taking 2 courses this fall, one on political theology and social ethics. That must be a humdinger. And the other on advanced methods in leadership and ministry. Over the summer, I've been trying to work ahead on the reading list for both classes, knowing that ministry and life, my leadership, responsibilities here to all of you, to our partners on and off the interfaith campus, to my civic volunteer commitments, not to mention my primary concern of caring for my family, will not slow down anytime soon. And I have to say, so far, the books I've explored excite me and awaken in me a curiosity and passion for what this new professional and personal development might foster, not just for me, but for all of us. Beyond a true page-turner called Post-Colonial Politics and Theology, Unraveling Empire from a Global World, we'll leave that for another day. My favorite book I've read so far is the newest publication by Judith Butler titled Who's Afraid of Gender? It is a richly meaningful title, which alludes to many religious and cultural touchstones, including the incredibly commercially successful Frank Churchill song, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? Butler explores the phantasm of gender in it, as it seemingly haunts millions of people, elected officials, and governments around the world. Butler, who uses they, them pronouns, argues that there is a fast-growing global anti-gender movement that threatens civilization itself. Rooted in authoritarianism and conspiracy theories, the anti-gender movement seeks to legislate against the recent gains made by activists, especially in North America and Europe. Instead of shaping their critique from a political, historical, or ethical framework, Butler approaches the phantasm, the specter, the ghost of gender from a purely psychosocial perspective. They write that gender is located, quote, where intimate fears and anxieties become socially organized to incite political passions. They go on to argue, quote, if one's opponents are gripped with fear, overwhelmed by the threat of a dangerous phantasm, then another approach has to emerge. It seems we are not in a public debate at all, precisely because there is no text, no common text in the room, no agreement on terms, and fear and hatred have flooded the landscape where critical thought should be thriving. I relate to this way of thinking of gender as a haunting phenomenon. Growing up, I had a lot of anxiety around gender and especially masculinity. As I've spoken to you many times in the past, including last Sunday, I was one who was raised in the arts, in theater and choir, in expression and creation of worlds, not real in a certain sense, but definitely relatable and alluring in another. I wasn't a sporty kid, although I loved sports. I was expressive and verbose, or to be redundant, I remember describing myself once as overly verbose. Subtlety was not my cup of tea growing up, perhaps not now. Emotions flowed freely, not just expressions of anger, but of sadness, enthusiasm, hope, and love, swirling circles of humanity that I held close and shared widely. Going to an arts-based middle and high school, being immersed in a creative student body where gender and sexuality was more diverse, or at least more spacious for exploration than other schools in the Milwaukee area, I came to realize early on that I wasn't like a lot of boys or teens I'd see in the media. I wasn't a macho man or a jock. I was sensitive, creative. I was overweight, and in many regards, more fluid in my ability to embody cultural expressions of sexuality and gender. I've always identified as male, as heterosexual, but my openness, which was cultivated by a loving family, friendship circle, school environment, and importantly, my Unitarian Universalist congregation growing up, gave me permission to not feel boxed into the norm of who I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to live and express myself in this life. So paradoxically, I was both free to be me while also deeply aware that I was different than what many would consider appropriate for my identity markers. It's sort of like I was in this progressive bubble of gender expansiveness, yet knowing that the bubble was bound to pop due to the way the world was structured just beyond the walls of my apparent safety. I attended a Unitarian Universalist family camp each summer growing up, and have for about the last 20 years and have done less so in the past 10. And while I attended, especially in middle school and high school, it was very common for me and my fellow adolescents to get really dressed up, decked out for the nightly dance each night. These dances would allow for radical experimentation when it came to our individual search for gender and sexual authenticity, exploring makeup and dresses and other somewhat binary notions of gender expression were important rites of passage for me and my friends. And yet, even now, I look back knowing that it was a transgressive and likely not very understandable act to people who were unfamiliar with or are unfamiliar with progressive UU summer camp culture. As I got older, like in college and then in seminary, I felt shame at times about my past, even being afraid that pictures from my past would come back to haunt me, that would surface. Even though I know that that is internalized misogyny, transphobia, and homophobia, the violence of the world, the cruelty of people, including loved ones, sometimes especially loved ones, can foster shame no matter what pride or liberation was once felt. This is where I am so grateful for both of our readings and one video this morning. In Blessing Our Many Masculinities, Kai Flannery offers us a pluralistic view of how masculinity may manifest in our lives, with a special note that masculinity is not just for those who identify as men. Kai writes something that truly is a blessing that I needed as a teen and still today, and perhaps you did this morning as well. Quote, we bless today all the masculinities with us and within us. We bless you who shelter us and are queer, you who grow flowers, you who take up welding and are proud to work in a shower of sparks. We bless you whose hearts hammer at taking up a power drill, you who know the names of the birds and trees, each life regarded and held gently. And then this, we bless you who paper over fear with swagger, your little bird heart beating fast, saying, let me be free, please don't laugh. We bless those of you who do not have words for what we feel, whose strength lies in planning, hoping hard that action will be enough. There is a space for you in the landscape of vulnerability. I love that last line. There is a space for you in the landscape of vulnerability. Does that resonate with anyone as well? I love this sentiment, not just because it makes me feel good, like that I can find belonging in my wholeness, but also because it makes me feel vulnerable in the first place. It gives permission for vulnerability. It welcomes and encourages it rather than suppressing it or loading us up with shame. It invites the multitudes of human expression within us longing to be expressed beyond us. It holds a similar sentiment as one of my favorite Rumi poems that also names the landscape beyond our immediate imagination. Rumi wrote almost 800 years prior, quote, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. When I am reminded of visions such as this one given to us by Rumi or by Kai Flannery, I am at once overwhelmed by the vulnerability and yet drawn by the promise of liberation to live in a world where each of us can be loved and embraced for exactly who we are and how we live in this landscape of life. The video I shared this morning brings this vulnerable journey toward self and communal love through the alternative hellscape of shame, anxiety, and psychological phantasmic violence we have imposed on one another full circle. Alak Vaid Menon is an internationally acclaimed poet, comedian, public speaker, and actor. They are non-binary and gender non-conforming, who in their message this morning speaks to the phantasm of gender in a way that invites all of us to get free. I want to share a longer passage from it because it is too good to be heard just once this morning. Alak says, quote, "Don't show up for me because you want to protect me or you want to help me. I don't need your help. I have an unshakable and irrevocable sense of who I am because I am divine. I come from people who were exterminated and targeted by colonists because the gender binary was superimposed on Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color by European colonists. And the reason they targeted us was because they knew our power, right? So the reason there is so much animus against me is because of my power. I don't need to be legitimized or I don't have anything to prove. What I want us to rephrase the conversation is, are you ready to heal? And I don't think the majority of people are ready to heal. And that's why they repress us as trans and gender variant people, because they have done this violence to themselves first. They've repressed their own femininity. They've repressed their own gender nonconformity. They've repressed their own ambivalence. They've repressed their own creativity. And so when they see us have the audacity to live a life without compromise, where we say there are no trade-offs, where we actually get to carve in the marrow of the earth our own goddamn beauty instead of saying, thank you for teaching me another way to live, they try to disappear us because they did that to themselves first. I fell to the floor when I first saw this TikTok. I think I sent it to Sky right away. It spoke to so many of the joys and sorrows, hopes and fears, challenges and opportunities of the human spirit. Who's afraid of gender? The book, as well as the psychosocial phantasm, let alone the fears of the big bad wolf or any oppressive delimiter of our human experience, is a question, are questions that invite not only personal reflection, but communal action. In this community of hope and courage, where we celebrate love and work for justice, we are stating in no uncertain terms that ours is a religion that celebrates love as it manifests through gender, and we are fighting for justice as it promises to free us from the paralysis of binary conformity. Our value of pluralism is a direct connection to not only our commitment to interfaith community, but of gender inclusive community. We value not just different expressions of religious expression, but of gender expression. And just as there is beauty to be found in relationship with people from diverse religious and spiritual and cultural backgrounds, so too is there beauty in the infinite expressions of who we are at our most essential and divine truth. Without question, the big bad wolf is not gender that is going to get us when we let our guards down, but indeed the systems of oppression and the powers and principalities of the world who would seek to dissolve all difference, all beauty, all creativity, all self-determination to a singular, or rather dual and dull cookie cutter life that uplifts unity while submerging or drowning difference far below the water's surface. But no, we will not allow this violence in this sanctuary, in this community, on this campus where love is at the center of who we are. No, here instead we will uplift you, each of you, all of us, into the light of our own divinity and the promise of our collective humanity in all of its color and hue, in its brilliance and radiance. And you know why? Because these values and commitments are in the very premise and promise of Unitarian Universalism. They are in our DNA, and they have been a reality of our existence and persistence for over 450 years. You see, one of the origins, or perhaps the main origin of the fear of the metaphorical big bad wolf, dates back to a specific verse in the Christian Bible, in the Gospel of Matthew, in chapter 10, when Jesus tells his disciples, quote, "I am sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." This warning and this message this morning are not of fear, weakness, anxiety, or shame, but rather of courage, strength, resolve, and pride for who we are in our fullness and beauty, in our multitudes and messages of love, pluralism, and our sacred interdependence with all existence. And perhaps you've noticed when I'm not wearing the robe, or heard that when I was on sabbatical in 2023, I got a tattoo while I was in Budapest of the insignia of the Unitarian Church of Hungary. Well, in this symbol of some of our earliest, that represents some of our earliest religious ancestors, there is a dove that rests upon a pile of rocks surrounded by an Ouroboros. If you're not familiar with the name Ouroboros, you may be with the symbol, namely that of a snake forming a circle with its head reaching back to eat its tail. The Hungarian Unitarians, those who originated in Transylvania, which is now a part of Romania, see this verse as an important reminder of their prophetic and heretical message of love and inclusion, of freedom and reason. The passage, to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves, is one of resilience and survival, of strength and unity amidst the wolves of the current day. The Ouroboros has meaning in many ancient cultures and traditions, including Gnosticism in the first few centuries of the Common Era, and is more generally seen as a symbol of eternity and the soul of the world. Thus, this symbol invites us into deeper relationship with ourselves, our own soul, one another, the spirit and gifts of community like the one we are in here, and of the larger world and the eternal metaphorical soul, the over soul of all existence of which we are a part. The invitation to fear not in the face of big bad wolves of the day, of gender, of white nationalism, of repressive legislation on all fronts of our humanity. We are living into a centuries, if not millennia-long journey for personal awakening and collective liberation. So take not for granted this radical belief we hold when we say we celebrate love. It's not for marketing. It is a radical, theological, countercultural belief. For when we choose to celebrate love and do so publicly and boldly, we are sending a message that we are ready to heal ourselves and the world from pain we too often perpetuate by our silence and fear. But I see it. I think Sky sees it. I think we're starting to see it. The world in which we long to make real, a world of color and beauty, of song and delight, a world for all of us. Oh, what a beautiful world, colorful and joyful world that will be. May it be so, and amen.